Hi everybody, thank you for joining us for one of our Introduction to Crowdfunding for Sport webinars along with Sport Wales. I'm Zoe and I'm part of the team here at Crowdfunder. Hopefully by the end of today's session you'll leave knowing more about crowdfunding and Sport Wales is a place for sport fund to prepare you for crowdfunding for your sports organisation. At the end, you'll be sent a link to our Learn platform, which will show you how to crowdfund, giving you all the tools that you need to run a successful sports campaign. There's just a few quick housekeeping points to go through before we start. We have allowed 60 minutes for this session. That includes our slides and content, but also a Q&A with you guys at the end. So please do make use of that chat box, which you should see on the right of your screen. My colleague Charlie, who's with me today, has popped a few messages in there already. So do feel free to introduce yourselves, let us know whereabouts you're tuning in from, about your sports club, and of course, any questions that you have that crop up throughout the session. We are going to be hearing from Phil from Sport Wales, who's going to talk us through the fund that's available. It's one of our extra funding partners. And we're also lucky enough to be joined by Aaron, who's going to talk us through his really successful project and just how to crowdfund successfully, things that they did well, things that they've learned from, some really good advice and hints for all of you here today to help you get started. This whole session is being recorded. You may wonder if you're going to feature in the recording. You won't. We can't actually see you guys, but we will make sure that we send a replay to the whole session to everyone that's signed up for today's webinar, along with all of the really useful resources and links that will signpost you to all of the great bits that we have available to you on our website. Okay, we have a lot to get through today, so let's get started. It would be really brilliant before we jump into our slides to actually see what your knowledge of crowdfunding is like already. So I'm going to put a poll into our chat box for you to answer. Have any of you donated to a crowdfunding project before? Don't be shy. There we go. Results coming in. Okay, so that is a resounding 100% of you have not donated to a crowdfunder. That's absolutely fine. We're going to talk through what crowdfunding is, so that's brilliant. We'll get more of an understanding of your knowledge towards the end of this session as well. And do you know of any clubs around you? So have your club crowdfunded before, or is this completely new to you guys? Oh, more of a 50-50 split on that one. Okay, so well, 75-25. So 3/4 of you are saying that no, your sports club hasn't crowdfunded, and 25% of you are saying yes. So a few of you may have a little bit of knowledge of the mechanics of crowdfunding, and that's fab. But for those of you that it's a completely new idea, let's just talk through what crowdfunding is. So Crowdfunder UK was set up around 10 years ago, and we are a rewards-based crowdfunding platform. So a reward is an offer, like a benefit of some kind in return for a financial contribution. So that works really well when it comes to crowdfunding for sports clubs. It allows people to be able to give something back to the community. And we'll go through what kind of things can be offered as a reward a little bit later on in this session. The idea of crowdfunding is raising money for a project or for an idea from those around you, so from the community that potentially are going to benefit from that project or from that idea. There are some really wonderful benefits that come alongside crowdfunding, not just the financial raise. Of course, that's going to be the most important thing for people coming and using the platform. They're going to want to raise money to make their idea happen. However, there are some really wonderful added benefits. So first of all, project owners or sports clubs in this instance will get a real sense of validation of their idea or of their project and even the club itself. So by launching a crowdfunding campaign and getting people excited about what they're going to be able to do with the money, they'll ultimately build confidence in their own idea, but also the community around them will build confidence in the club and build confidence in the idea as well. They'll also be able to see if there's a real appetite for their idea, if there is a need for what they're raising the money for. It's a brilliant low-risk way to test the water with an idea. By launching that campaign, you're going to build awareness. So you're going to be able to reach out to your community and let them know what's going to be coming, what's on the horizon. And that's going to create a real buzz around that idea and get people excited in the community and in the club as to what you're going to be able to do once you've raised that money. You may well even get noticed by a wider audience. So we will make sure that we give you the tools and the resources to be able to build your network and reach out to the wider community. You might even find that you actually have more people coming along and trying the sport, signing up as members, just through the process of launching that crowdfunding campaign. Now, everybody that supports your campaign will automatically become an advocate. We are advocates of projects here at Crowdfunder that we've helped and supported, that we feature in webinars and talk about, and we go on to talk to our friends and families about all of these brilliant projects that come through the platform. So all those people that are supporting you financially or have supported you by promoting on your behalf will become advocates and talk to their own networks about the wonderful things that you are doing. That's going to lead to building a really engaged audience and potentially creating really meaningful connections going forwards. You will also learn new skills. So by making use of things like today's session and our online courses that we'll give you access to with a link at the end of this session, you'll develop new skills to get you crowdfunding like a pro. But these skills are transferable as well. They're things like being able to network efficiently and effectively, self-promote, write engaging content, and fundraise digitally. These are all brilliant skills which can be transferred into different areas as well. Now, for all of you here today, you'll be wanting to hear about the extra funding that we have available from Sport Wales. We do have large amounts of extra funding available on our platform as a whole. So we work with over 70 different funding partners, both nationally and regionally, and we have over £10 million worth of extra funding available to eligible projects. So do make use of today's session, find out more about the Sport Wales Fund and see if you could be eligible for that, but also take a look at the other funds that we have on our platform. We often see projects getting supported by a number of different funding partners. So it's always good to have that in the back of your mind when you're putting your crowdfunding campaign together. We know from having worked with our sports partners for a while and for seeing so many different sports clubs come through the platform that actually crowdfunding for sport is such a recipe for success. You already have a really captivated audience by way of club members. Normally, sports clubs are embedded in their local community as well. They play a really important role. So you already have access to your crowd. People are invested in the legacy of the club. Sometimes these clubs have been around for tens of years, hundreds of years, even in some cases, and they are a real pivotal point of the community. So you have everything you need at your fingertips to be able to crowdfund effectively. The other thing that works really well is by nature, you are a competitive bunch. So actually setting your club members with some kind of task or some kind of fundraising challenge or involving them in some way is really going to help with the success of your crowdfunding campaign. They're going to want to see you succeed. So bring everybody on board as much as you can. Try not to do this as a solo effort. It should be a collaborative and kind of community-based approach wherever possible. So just looking at some of our numbers, so our impact so far, you can see that we have managed to distribute £8.4 million worth of extra funding. So that's from our sports partners specifically. So that's Sport Northern Ireland, Sport Wales, Sport England and British Cycling. We've seen over 4,000 sports projects come onto the platform, over 300,000 supporters, which is huge. So they've raised over £26 million combined. So it's a really exciting way to access extra funding. It's a really brilliant way to put yourselves out there and develop more of a crowd around what you're doing. And it can be a really, really successful way to fundraise for your club. To tell us more about the wonderful fund that we have available from Sport Wales is Phil Clark. Hi, Phil, are you there? How are you doing, Phil?
Hi guys, thanks Zoe, and thanks everybody for joining. Yeah, all good, thanks.
Amazing. So you're going to tell us a little bit more about the fund itself. So I will leave you to it for a moment, and then we can pick up again in a moment.
No problem. Thanks, Zoe. Yeah, so first of all then, guys, I'm just going to run through a little bit about A Place for Sport Crowdfunder. We've had a really successful 18 months or so working with Crowdfunder UK in raising money for community clubs across Wales to help raise money for capital projects, I suppose. So briefly then, A Place for Sport Crowdfunder is an opportunity for community sports clubs and organisations to raise money for capital off-field works supported by us, Sport Wales, through match funding. So Sport Wales will match potentially funds up to between 30% and 50% of project's target total. So for example, if a club came in and they wanted to raise £10,000 for a specific project, then a club could be potentially eligible for 50% of that target total to be put towards their campaign by Sport Wales, so £5,000. It could be a 40% pledge from Sport Wales, or it could be a 30% pledge from Sport Wales. And I go into that in a little bit more detail in a moment. In terms of when I say capital funding and off-field works, I just like to give you some brief examples of what I mean by that. So in terms of, you know, your normal sort of sports equipment, your on-field sports equipment, which is your footballs, your cones, your bibs, all that sort of things. That leads to another of our funds called the Be Active Wales Fund, where A Place for Sport comes in, is that it kind of tackles that off-field sort of strand that we want to support clubs with. And what I mean by that is change room facilities, clubhouse renovations, improved kitchen facilities, maybe a bar facility. And that's just touching the base, really, I suppose, of what we could potentially fund through this project. We've seen clubs come in for disability ramps. We've seen clubs come in for various types of technology. So it could be something along the lines of a video camera, which is a really good bit of performance analysis equipment that really improves the off-field experience for people in a particular sports club. So there's lots of different avenues a club can go down in terms of what they can fund for. But in terms of really simplifying what this fund is all about, I suppose thinking of the off-field element is the best way to get your head around really what you could potentially put a crowdfunder page together for. In terms of the percentages and the money that Sport Wales will look to give towards a project, I'm just going to run through that a little bit more detail now. So as I said a moment ago, there are three ways a club could be supported by Sport Wales, and that's either with a 50% pledge, a 40% pledge, or a 30% pledge from Sport Wales. So in terms of a 50% pledge, then it's basically on the club's postcode. So what we do, we work with the Welsh Index of Multiple Deprivation Data, and when a project comes in, we will use the postcode of said club to determine where they are in potential to the deprivation data across Wales. So if a club is in one of the 30% most deprived areas of Wales, then they would be eligible for a 50% pledge. If they're not eligible for a 50% pledge, then we will look at the application itself and what it kind of hits. So in terms of a 40% pledge, which would be in the £10,000 example, £4,000 from Sport Wales, what we look at is basically if it's tackling inequalities in sports or tackling underrepresented groups in sports. So a typical example of that would be a female team coming in to raise money for female changing rooms. And then a 30% pledge is if it doesn't hit the underrepresented sport angle, which is the 40%, or the Welsh Index of Multiple Deprivation Data, which is the 50%. And then if that is the case, then we will pledge 30% of that target total towards a project. So again, using the example of a £10,000 project, Sport Wales will pledge £3,000 in a 30% situation. There are criterion elements that a project has to meet, though, and there's three strands that we like to look at, basically, in terms of what we would fund and what sort of, what we like to see a page kind of demonstrate. So as I've already mentioned, the off-field experience. So if a project can really sell to us why it's going to help improve the off-field experience of sport for their particular sports organization, then that straight away is a tick for us, and we would look to support the project, because that is one of our three priorities that we want to see from this fund. Another is providing economic sustainability. So if a project came into us and it demonstrated that their particular project in the long term is going to help the club financially, it's going to improve their economic sustainability for the future, again, that's a tick box. And the final priority is environmentally friendly. So if there is a project that comes in that is environmentally friendly, then again, that's another priority ticked for us. So just to recap on those three priorities then that a page must hit is either improving the off-field experience, which could be, as I've already mentioned, a camera situation, a video camera situation, performance analysis equipment. It could be a new stand, it could be a new dugout for a club. Providing economic sustainability then is the next one, and that could be simply installing a kitchen facility into a clubhouse to sell some food on a match day, which income generates for the club, or then being environmentally friendly. It could be something on the lines of changing all their lights to LEDs, for example, which would be more environmentally friendly. So in terms of how a page works and what a club kind of does in terms of next steps, there's two ways to create a crowdfunder page. Firstly, you can go through the Crowdfunder website and follow the links and everything there. But if you're looking from a Sport Wales perspective, if you were to visit our Sport Wales website, visit the grants and funding section, you would find a expression of interest form on our page. You can click into that, you can answer some questions, and once you've submitted that form, which takes a couple of minutes, one of our team members will get back to you and signpost you to the correct form and the correct entry point for this particular fund. Creating a crowdfunder page then is part of the fun, I suppose, of the whole project. And I think Aaron is going to talk a little bit more about what makes a good campaign in a moment, so I won't steal his thunder, but there are some really, really creative ways you can get a page up to raise some funds and really be successful. So just the last point then to mention, any sort of page that comes into us, any project that comes into us, it will be capped at a £15,000 award from Sport Wales. So as I said a moment ago, there's a 50%, 40%, 30% sliding scale of what we would fund towards a particular target total. Then taking that into consideration, the max that we would put towards a project is £15,000. So if you think of it in another example, a club comes in for £30,000 for a brand new clubhouse, then and they're in the 50% category, then a £15,000 pledge from Sport Wales would be the maximum. That hits the 50% angle, but also it is our maximum sort of pledge that we would give. So I hope I've given a bit of a rundown there of the technicalities of how a crowdfunder page could benefit you as a club. As you can see on the page on screen, there's a couple of examples there of some really successful projects that we've had. FC Kamaman raised some brilliant funds for a new stand and some dugouts. Pontier is the second one you can see on page. They raised some money to bury some power lines that were over their sports ground, meaning that they couldn't use certain areas of their pitches. Again, a really successful project. And the third one on the screen is a bowls club, which basically looked to improve their pathway and their disability access to the green that they use. So three really good examples straight away there of very different approaches that clubs have used. So yeah, thanks for your time. I'm going to pass you back to Zoe now, and hopefully I've given you a bit of a brief of what it's all about.
Thank you so much, Phil. That was really informative, and it's great to understand that sliding scale in a little bit more detail, because as you said, it's up to 50%, isn't it? And there's lots of kind of factors that make up that decision. Would you mind hanging on in the live room until the end of the session, and we can bring you back for the Q&A?
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in a little while. Okay, so some really great information about the fund itself, and I know that Charlie has put into the chat box the link to our extra funding page, which has got all the information about a place for sport there, and also the Sport Wales website for you all to go and take a look at. I just want to briefly go over the mechanics of the funding, just so you have an idea of the expectations that you would need to meet in order to actually secure that funding. So I'll just remove myself from this slide to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so once you have put in your application for your Sport Wales funding, you want to do this at a stage where you're already really happy with your draft crowdfunding page. So you want to come along, sign up to Crowdfunder UK, start putting your page together. We'll talk you through how to do that really successfully in just a moment. But before you go live, it's always a really great place to put in any applications for extra funding. That way, you should hopefully receive an approval before your go live date, and you can launch your crowdfunder with the confidence that you have this potential extra funding pledge that's going to be awarded to your crowdfunding campaign. So you're going to start crowdfunding knowing that you've been approved for your Sport Wales extra funding. You're going to raise 25% of your initial target yourselves, so from your crowd, and that's going to be from a required amount of supporters, and that will all be outlined in your approval email. It's dependent on the target that you have set, and you can see in the table at the top of the slide here that the required supporter numbers do increase as your target increases. The reason for this is to really encourage you all to embrace the process of crowdfunding, getting out there and speaking to your community and bringing in donations from a large amount of people. Once you've hit that first milestone, so you've raised 25% of your initial target from your required amount of supporters, you will see the extra funding pledge from Sport Wales land on your page. They will become one of your supporters. The money that they're pledging will go into your total amount raised so far towards your target, and that will be a real boost for you to go back out to your crowd and bring in the remaining shortfall to reach your target. So you're going to keep crowdfunding, you're going to use that as momentum, and then you're going to raise the money so that you hit 100% of your initial target. Once you have reached your target, you've hit 100%, all of the money that you have raised so far, including any of the extra funding from Sport Wales, will be secured, and that will be paid out to you at the close of your crowdfunding campaign. Now, if you still have some time live left on your campaign, you can continue to raise money, and this is something we call a stretch target. A stretch target is all of those wonderful added benefits that you might be able to bring to your project if you were to raise just a little bit more. So your initial target is going to be the minimum you need to make your project happen. And then anything above and beyond that to make it an all singing and all dancing project is going to be considered your stretch target. Your stretch target can be increased at any point. The thing to bear in mind is, as long as you reach 100% of your target, all money that you have raised is secure. And if you continue to raise money into your stretch target, that is an added bonus towards your project. In terms of accessing the extra funding available for your project, you must do a few things when setting up your crowdfunding page. So in the first instance, you'll need to let us know whereabouts in the country you are. So you'll be asked to input the postcode of where the project is happening. And then there's a whole section on applying for extra funding when you are setting up your page. You'll be asked a few tick box questions to let us know who's likely to benefit from your project, the demographic that you're going to be working with, those potential outcomes as well from the project kind of coming to life. So that for you guys is going to be things like improving physical fitness, maybe it's improving mental health or tackling isolation and loneliness. All of these things that are a ripple effect, if you like, to the importance of getting involved in sport and the importance of sport towards the community too. You must allow us to share your details with our funding partners. And those details are going to be everything that you're inputting into your crowdfunding page. So the kind of back end of things as well. So the organizational structure, for example, whereabouts you are. And as I mentioned, who's going to benefit from your project. And of course, your target. We need to know how much you're trying to raise as well. Our computer system will then use this information to match you with any of our relevant funding partners that our computer thinks will be a good match for you. And you can see here that this project has been matched with Sport Wales. So all they would need to do is find out more, and through the dashboard of their projects page, they will be able to apply for any extra funding they've been matched with. It's a really straightforward application form. I'd say give yourself 10 to 15 minutes or so to put in the application. If you have been matched with multiple funding partners, it's a great idea to create a Word document with your answers kind of saved so that you can copy and paste into the different applications as well. It's a lot more straightforward than things like traditional bid writing, for example, because our funding partners will use your project page to find out all about your brilliant project too. So in terms of how to create that page, one of the key things is being able to tell your story effectively. We know what works well when it comes to being able to do that in an engaging way, so much so that we've actually set up a template for sports projects. So all you need to do is replicate the template and fill in the blanks. So let us know who you are. Let us know about your community impact. Make sure you fill the page with lots of great visuals and images about the club and, you know, how engaged you are with your local community. Really sell yourselves as a club, not only to your existing members, those that already know about you, but do also think about those that might not have a connection with the club and might not know the history of the club or just how important it is to its club members and to the local community. You're then going to go on and add a short little video at the top of the page. This is a brilliant way to hook in your audience in a short amount of time. It only needs to be a couple of minutes long. A minute and a half would be ideal. And you're just going to let us know who you are, why you're crowdfunding, what you're crowdfunding for, and how people can help you. It doesn't have to be a professionally shot video. It doesn't have to be highly edited. It can be captured on a phone. The main things to bear in mind are have people in the video, try and be on location if you can be, try and show some of those people that are going to benefit from the project if you can in the video. Some brilliant advice is wherever possible, use the youth team, because kids love being in the video and the kids' parents and grandparents love watching them in the video, and then it gets shared amongst all of their friends, and it really does help to generate some support. You'll then go on to add some rewards to your page. This can be a brilliant way to not only incentivize people's giving, but give something back to the community as well. It's a way to signpost people to different price points. If you know that certain aspects of your project cost a certain amount of money, you can break that down. And is there a way of saying, okay, we need £500 to cover this certain aspect of the capital cost of doing up the changing rooms? Could you have a £500 reward, which might be a sponsorship reward aimed at a local business? Or could you break that down into smaller chunks of maybe £25? And is it £25 maybe a brick or a plaque on the wall of the new changing rooms? Something along those lines. Think creatively wherever you can about things that you can offer as a club, and that might be coaching sessions, that might be taster days, that might be sponsorship, but also get out there and speak to the community and speak to your network and the crowd. You can see here that there's different high street vouchers, there's a fish and chip shop voucher, there is an MOT voucher. We've seen all sorts of different things come through the platform. We've even got a conversational Greek lessons here. People often wonder, especially at the moment, with the cost of living crisis about how people are still spending money towards crowdfunders. Is it still effective? And what we have seen from our side is yes, it is. And I think some of the reason behind that is that people are just more conscious of where they're spending their money. So if you can offer rewards that really speak to your community, maybe offering things at a discount, or maybe offering an essential service that somebody might need to purchase anyway, or even a luxury item at a discounted rate that they wouldn't necessarily be able to maybe afford at the moment, or wouldn't be thinking about treating themselves, but actually knowing that their money's going towards a good cause is that incentive to be able to encourage them to treat themselves to something by way of getting it from your crowdfunder. Their money's gone to a great cause, doing a good thing, helping their community, helping the local sports club, and they've actually got something out of it for themselves. So do think creatively, have a great varied price point offering as well. Think about having some low price rewards that could be really simple things like a shout out from the club on social media, a list of supporters on a website, list of supporters in the clubhouse bar. Maybe it's a community organisation coming into the club and you actually host a community day with some taster sessions, all the way through to higher price rewards, which might be aimed at your local business community, things like sponsorship and team days, all those kinds of things. The other thing that you can do to really boost your fundraising potential is to become a multiplier. So a multiplier project essentially allows people to fundraise on behalf of the main project. So as you can see here, Coffee Bean, which are a really wonderful crowdfunding campaign that were really successful with us a little while ago, they became a multiplier and they actually had 3 different fundraisers set up. So they had people who were club members, if you like, that were already had links with the club itself, setting up individual fundraisers to be able to bring in money to the overall main project. So if you do decide to become a multiplier project, people can fundraise on your behalf. They're prompted to set up their own mini pages, and all of their supporters and all of the money that they raise will automatically funnel onto your main page. They don't need to enter any of their financial details, but it can be a really lovely thing to do to, again, engage with the wider community and make it a collaborative effort, especially if you've got links to local schools or colleges or community groups that might want to help you. Think about the fact that not everybody's going to be able to financially support you, but they might be able to do a fundraiser, they might be able to offer you a reward, or they might be able to share your project on behalf of the club. So there's a few different angles there to be able to have conversations about supporting your crowdfunder, which can make it a really, really lovely thing for everybody to get involved in. Now, somebody who knows how to do this really well and successfully is Aaron Davis. Hi, Aaron, are you there?
Hi, Zoe, can you hear me?
I can hear you absolutely fine. I can't see you yet, but I'm hoping that the audience can see you. Oh, not quite yet. So you're just loading at the moment, but I can hear you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Of course, we are so lucky to have you here. Just looking at these numbers, you had such a successful crowdfunding campaign. I'm not sure whether it might be worth, Aaron, just refreshing a moment to see if you come back into the live room with your video, if possible. And I think we're going to share a link to your crowdfunding campaign into the chat box. There we go. Hello.
Yes, great.
That's better. That's nicer than like a spiraling logo. Thank you for joining us today, Aaron. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about your project?
Of course, yes. So March last year, the committee of Tonyrefrail Boys Club invited me along to a committee meeting to tell me about their desire to raise funds and build a 100-seater stand at our home in Tonyrefrail Park. So yeah, a big goal. And there were a couple of drivers for that, Zoe. So yeah, first of all, we wanted to change the way our home looked and really start engaging with the committee more. But also as well, having 100-seater stand, it also helps with achieving what's called a Tier 3 status for the club. So that's the licenses that the FAW give to each club as they progress through the leagues. So it was a really important piece of criteria that we needed to meet.
Amazing. And you can see here that you had 193 supporters, which is massive. So you obviously really connected with your community around you. And of course, you received that extra funding from Sport Wales. So £9,000 towards your projects there. Was that the main kind of draw towards crowdfunding, or what brought you towards the platform by way of raising money?
Great question. Yes. So when we sat down, we had a look at the timelines in terms of when we want to achieve this, and we needed a really good mechanism to raise funds quickly and easily. And of course, looking at Crowdfunder and its ability to do that, but also then that association you had with Sport Wales to get that extra funding, it was a no-brainer to go with that option, really.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. And you're right, it's a very kind of short, sharp fundraising exercise, isn't it? Like, we recommend kind of 4 to 5 weeks, which seems really crazy when you think about how long it can take to kind of go through rounds of funding and things like that normally people are used to. But we just know that actually when you're reaching out to people around you, it's easier to do that in a shorter space of time. Now, you did obviously really well promoting the campaign, at communicating with your crowd. Is there any kind of lessons learned there, things that you did well, or things that maybe you would do differently if you crowdfunded again? Like, what worked well and what was a bit tricky?
Yeah, another good question. So what worked well was definitely the use of media. So for us, it was the promotion video that we used. We had some amazing feedback from the community because we felt it really sort of captured the heart of the club and what we were trying to achieve and why. And then people could really relate to that, right? And because media is such an easy way to consume that information, yeah, a lot of great feedback.
Brilliant. Was there anything that you found difficult or that you might do differently if you were to run another campaign?
Yes. So what was the most challenging was, I suppose, getting started, because it's very much unknown for us. So yeah, please do use the templates that you guys provide. Sport Wales and Crowdfunder were brilliant in terms of helping us with questions that we had along that process. But once we got started, then it started to become much easier. Especially when the money starts to come in, you start getting more and more excited. It's great. But I think the biggest challenge that we had, Zoe, was we sort of underestimated the effort it was going to take to actually deliver the project. And we got some amazing people at Tonyrefrail Boys Club, and they have full-time jobs. They were already coaches as well for some of the teams, and they had to support this project. And I think, yeah, it was a long it was a long 5-6 weeks, getting through that. But we managed to get through it. But I think, looking back, we probably would have looked at getting more support early on in the project.
So well-deserved break, hopefully, after the 6 weeks. And I think
Yes.
You're right, it does. I think it gets a bit underestimated, and a lot of people that are raising money for sports clubs, like you say, they've got full-time jobs, or they're coaches, or they're really involved in the club and running the club. So making sure, like you say, you're kind of getting as much help as possible is really, really good advice. It can be a big undertaking, but definitely worth it, I would say. Wouldn't you agree?
Of course, yes, definitely.
Brilliant. So in terms of, I mentioned at the beginning some of those other benefits, and obviously you guys raised a whopping, well, almost 56 grand, like that's a huge amount of money. But did you notice any of those other benefits, like maybe more awareness of the club, or some different kind of relationships with the local community, maybe even some increased membership numbers off the back of running the campaign?
We did, yes, and probably unexpectedly as well, Zoe. So obviously the first thing was definitely the increase in the club's profile. Through places like Twitter, we had people like Noel Mooney, who's the chief executive of the FAW, liking our tweets. People like Laura McAllister. So really influential people in Welsh football, sort of supporting our cause. but also as well, we had a range of different sort of like coaches and managers and things from different clubs who really wanted to see us succeed. So again, that was really great to have that support. But alongside that, it was definitely the partnerships. So we created over 40 new partnerships as part of this process, which is unbelievable. And that's mainly with local businesses, which we absolutely love. Now, the biggest effect of that has allowed us to generate over £10,000 in annual recurring revenue now as part of sponsorships and different types of sponsorships, which is absolutely brilliant because that's pretty much the cost of running the club each year. So to get that, recurring every year, easily is great.
That's such good news. What an achievement. That's
Yes.
awesome. Well done you. And in terms of everybody that's here today, and we did a poll, didn't we, at the beginning, and most people don't have much of an idea of crowdfunding. They've not kind of crowdfunded before. Some haven't even donated to crowdfunders before. What advice would you give them if they're thinking about this as a process of fundraising for their clubs?
Yes, I think you and Phil have highlighted some really good examples. Definitely use the templates, guys. They really do help. Have a look at some of the other successful projects and see what they did, and just use some of those methods in terms of raising those funds and getting that sort of project out there. That'll really help and speed that up. Of course, things like using media are really important, right? People can consume that much easier these days. One of the biggest things that we did was we really tried to understand who our supporters would be and typically where they spend their time. So places like Facebook, for example, great for communities, right? And smaller groups. So spreading our word on platforms like Facebook had a really big impact. So think about who those people can be and where they spend their time and try and get the word to them.
It's really brilliant advice. Thank you, Aaron. That's awesome. And congratulations again. You did so well. And how is it all going now? You mentioned it's over a year ago. So how are you getting on with actually building the stands? Are they all up and ready?
They are, yes. So the stand, yes, we started in March last year. So by the end of August, the stand was up. We had an opening day. So the stand is in use. So since then, we've added more security around the stand. We've added more security around the new dugouts. More sponsorship boards as well around the pitch. So we're starting to look like a completely different home, and it really makes a big difference. But having that stand is bringing the community together, right? So more and more people are coming to watch the games, which is absolutely brilliant to see.
That's such good news. Congratulations. Would you mind hanging on for a little while if we pop camera off and things and just hang around for the Q&A at the end? Because we may well get some questions specifically for you and your amazing project.
No worries at all. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you so much. With some really inspirational information there from Aaron. I mean, what a success. And it's so good to talk to somebody who's not only gone through the process, but now actually the project has been delivered and all of those wonderful benefits post crowdfunding campaign. Now, to help you get there, we have got so much help and support available to you. We've got webinars such as today's, we run these regularly. We also have drop-in sessions. So if you have any questions about your potential crowdfunding campaign or you hit any hurdles along the way and you'd like to speak to somebody in person, you can pop along to one of our drop-in sessions. They're all hosted via Zoom and they take place weekly. You can book onto those via Eventbrite, just as you have done for today's session. We also have an online course, essentially, so our online learning and guides, and we'll share that link with you. That course that has been designed specifically for sports clubs has got 4 modules: an introduction to crowdfunding, and then the planning, creating and running of a campaign. If you were to work your way through those short little modules, you will have all of the information you need to be able to put together a really successful campaign. It's all super user friendly. nice short little videos, things to watch, things to absorb, kind of tick box exercises, and a few little tasks for you to do. I highly recommend that would be a next step for all of you here today, as well as, like Aaron said, actually looking at some of the projects that have come before you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just need to take some really good inspiration from successful projects and work with what has been their success and make it relevant to your project. So you can find all of the projects that have been supported by Sport Wales at the bottom of their funding page on our platform. Alternatively, you can search for successful projects in general, maybe within your local area. You might want to reach out and speak to a different community group, for example, that have crowdfunded effectively, and see if they might be able to help support you by way of a reward or some advice and mentoring. We also have our Knowledge Hub, which is full of brilliant guides on how to essentially create a really engaging page and how to run a really effective campaign. So all things like how to put a video together, how to write a press release, it's all there for you to make use of. So please do go and take a look at that. Once you've signed up to Crowdfunder UK, you'll receive tailored email advice, signposting in the correct direction as sports clubs as to what would be the best information on our site for you. We have a really wonderful customer support team as well. They're based down here in Cornwall. They're a relatively small team. My advice to you would be check out our help centre first and our Knowledge Hub. Our help centre is full of loads of FAQs and troubleshooting guides for the more technical elements of putting your campaign together and running it. And then the Knowledge Hub has got some brilliant guides on how to actually create that and run it and connect with your supporters. If you can't find the answers there, then of course contact our customer support team and they will do their best to help you with any of your queries. And then finally, the live project dashboard is something that you will refer to time and time again throughout your campaign. You can apply for extra funding from this dashboard, you can post updates to your supporters from this dashboard, and you can manage every aspect of your live campaign. So please do engage with that throughout the process. This is just a quick snapshot of that Learn platform, so our online courses that I mentioned. Lots of little videos to watch, lots of nice, really user-friendly content. Definitely sign up to that and make the most of it. Okay, we've got a nice amount of time left for some questions, so I would love to invite Phil and Aaron back onto the screen, please, and we'll see what questions we've got coming through. Let's have a little look. Thank you both for joining me, and thank you so much for all of your wonderful content throughout the course of the webinar. It's been really, really great. Okay. Aaron, your screen's doing the funny swirly thing again. You might have to refresh and come back in. So we have had one question come in asking what are the main roles that are needed to run a successful crowdfunder? And that's a really brilliant question. What you would need to do is assign somebody as a project leader, if you like. So they're going to be the main point of contact for the crowdfunding campaign. And it's always good to have somebody that kind of oversees everything, make sure that all the ducks are in a row. But from our point of view, we would say that the main things to concentrate on are somebody that can put an engaging page together. So somebody that's great at telling your story, somebody that can write in a way that really resonates with your potential audience. You might have somebody that's really good at social media that you can bring on board to actually promote the campaign. You might have someone who's a real people person who can go out and speak to the local community and bring in those all-important rewards. Another thing to bear in mind is if you have people within your community, not necessarily linked directly to the club, but that are influential in some way within the community, and that could be from a different organisation, a different business, or somebody who's just a bit of a socialite, you might be able to reach out to them and actually bring them on board as somebody that can help promote the crowdfunding campaign. Ultimately, a lot of people can play a part in this. And I think Aaron mentioned, didn't he, when he was talking, that if they did it again, they would bring more people on board. Aaron, would you mind? I'm just wondering if you refresh up at the top of the browser, you might leave the room completely and then come back in again, because it'd be great to hear from you on this one, from someone that's been there and done it.
No worries, I'll try to reload now.
Thank you. We'll come back. Oh, here we go. He's coming back in. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me, Aaron?
I can, yes.
Okay, we might have to just have, oh, there we go. Really, I don't know what's going on. It doesn't seem to like you coming up onto screen. But in terms of the roles that you had with your crowdfunding campaign, what did you have, and what would you have if you were to launch the campaign again?
Yes, really good questions. So as you already pointed out, the project lead, so that role was given to me. So yeah, I was lucky enough to take that on. But I think yes, you're right. I think we probably should have had more people covering social media and then driving the activity during the progress of the project. Because of bandwidth, we found it hard to keep on giving those regular updates. We have a Twitter page, Facebook, Instagram, and I think we should have had a lot more activity going through there. I think that would have really helped us along the way. But yeah, just more volunteers that can help, especially obviously for us at the end of the project. The biggest thing was the stand opening day. And again, we vastly underestimated the amount of activity we needed to plan and coordinate. So having, really good people with those types of skills, coordination skills, were really good getting people together and chipping in and making things happen. So yeah, they were the roles we wish we could fill.
That's a really good point, and I wonder how many times people almost overlook the either delivering the rewards or delivering the project itself element. It's all guns blazing trying to raise the money, and you've got people helping you out on that side, and then suddenly everyone goes away and you need to build a stand and have an open day. And probably had 193 supporters turn out to enjoy it with you that had contributed. I bet it was a busy day.
It was, yes, great day.
So that's a really good point. So project delivery and delivering those rewards, especially if it's things that need to be physically delivered or given out to people. Actually getting people on board post Crowdfunder is probably a really good shout as well. Phil, did you have anything to add on that one?
Yes, thanks, Zoe. I think what Aaron has said there is really beneficial to everybody on the call, and anybody who's almost thinking of putting together a crowdfunder page. We've seen lots of successes across the fund so far, and one of the key aspects of the more successful campaigns are definitely clubs or organizations who facilitate a bit of a team effort when they're putting together this crowdfunder project. So we've had some clubs come into us and they say, look, I'm running this by myself. I find it difficult to do this and this, and they're the ones that kind of struggle and maybe don't get off to a brilliant start, or even end up maybe moving away from crowdfunding, so to speak. The clubs that we have really seen be successful, Aaron's club is a perfect example of it, where at the beginning of their project they plan out the whole timeline of what they're going to do, and they assign people different roles, and they lean on the community as a whole. Really, it's not just on one person. So something really, really beneficial to take away, really, that it is a team effort, and the more successful campaigns are definitely those team efforts. Yeah,
thanks, Phil. You're completely right. And crowdfunding as a whole, that's what it's about. It's about collaboration and community, and it's for everybody, isn't it? Those people that are supporting you, Aaron, are going to benefit from what you're doing ultimately. So like you say, people coming along and watching the matches, people joining the club, it's all part and parcel of the journey. So yeah, bring people in, get them involved. We've had another question coming in here. This is probably a good one for you, Phil, actually. How do we find out if we are in a deprived area?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you are interested in this fund and you want to know the answer to that, then feel free to drop us a line on the email address provided earlier on. Basically, the way we look at it is we've got a special spreadsheet, I suppose, that we punch a bit of information into, and it kind of gives us that information back pretty quickly. So if there are any reservations about if you are in a deprived ward or whatever, and you would like to know that before putting up together a crowdfunding page, then please drop us a line, get in contact with us, and we can give you the heads up on that, prior to starting out, I suppose. The one thing to add on there is just give us a bit of information. So if you are going to drop that email address aligned with an inquiry around this, just put down your address, postcode, the club and the sport that you deliver, and then we can have that little bit of information to use then to get back to you and tell you, basically.
Amazing, thank you. And just also about the fund itself, how long does it take to hear back from Sport Wales? So once a project has submitted an application, what's the turnaround time roughly for that decision?
So I suppose it all depends on where the page is at, and the crowdfunder page is at. So for example, we've seen some pages be sent to us and applied to us, and it's come through on a Monday morning, and by a Monday afternoon, myself and my team have assessed it and said, this is a great campaign. They got a video, they got rewards, they got everything involved. Let's pledge towards this project. So in short, it could be you could hear from us on the same day or the next day, but as I said, I think that's when a page is really, really ready to go. Other than that, if a campaign came into us and we felt that there were improvements to be made, what we tend to do is get back to them as soon as we can, usually within 24 to 48 hours. That is kind of the turnaround that we would like to try and stick to, and we do try to stick to as more often than not. But even if there are elements that a page needs to improve on, we won't say, right, this isn't beneficial, you're not going to be able to raise with this page. We'll go back to them and say, look, we think you need to improve this, and this. We'll give you a week, come back to us in a week's time, and we'll reconvene and see where you are with it in a week's time. So it's quite flexible, to be honest with you. I think it's in terms of pressing the button and the page coming to us, it'll be 24 to 48 hours we like to try and stick to. But then usually if there are improvements that need to be made, you do tend to have another week or so to try and tidy up that page to the relevance that we were looking for.
Brilliant. So actually, it's not definitely a no if it gets declined in the first instance. You guys will work with projects, won't you, to make any amendments and encourage them and kind of give feedback wherever possible, unless, of course, it's not eligible, which we completely understand. With your project, Aaron, was it a straightforward approval, or did you have a bit of back and forth with Sport Wales and needed to make any amendments at all?
For us, very straightforward and very easy. I love the platform and the ability to answer those questions via the website. I work in IT myself and enterprise software, so seeing how nice and clean and straightforward it was, I was like, wow, this is brilliant. So great for us. Yeah, very quick response. I think it was within 24, 48 hours, and we're away to go.
That's music to our ears. The fact that you work in IT, you're probably just like, yeah, I've got this. Lots of our kind of first timers that come from sports don't necessarily have much of a tech background, and raising money kind of digitally can feel a little bit alien. We have obviously worked hard to try and make the platform as user-friendly as possible. And I should just kind of reiterate that we do have all of that support on hand as well. So if people are feeling a little bit unsure about taking that leap, I would recommend just using the resources that we have available and reaching out to you guys, Phil, at Sport Wales as well. And I know that you're really engaged with your projects and encouraging them and supporting them to be able to crowdfund effectively as well. And look at different projects, always see what's coming for you. In terms of next steps, just thinking that we've reached the hour and we've got through some brilliant questions, so thank you everybody for those. Let me just pull up our last slide a moment, if I keep you guys on the screen with me for just a second. Just to give you all an idea of what you should be doing next, now that you've watched this webinar, look at our Learn platform, so make sure that you're engaging with all of those Learn resources. See what extra funding you may be eligible for. Hopefully that's going to be Sport Wales. It could be one of our national partners as well. So make sure you look at all of those and explore those other projects. Get some inspiration. Take a look at Aaron's project. Take a look at the examples we've mentioned today and that are part of the Sport Wales Fund. So you can see what types of projects are getting funded and how they've achieved that. and then pop along to a drop-in. If you have any questions, come and speak to us. We are here to help you to run those successful campaigns. And all that remains to say is to thank you both for joining me today. It's been a really wonderful session. So thank you for giving up your time and coming along to talking to everyone today. Thank you very much.
No problem, Zoe. Thank you.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Zoe.
Lovely. Well, we'll see you later. Take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
What I would love to do before you all leave is I would just like to put our final poll into the chat box. If you wouldn't mind filling this one in for me, just let us know how confident you're feeling after today's session about taking that next step on your journey to crowdfunding. So the next steps we have on our screen here. That is very, very encouraging. So 100% of you that are here today do feel confident to now go on and start looking into the process of crowdfunding for your club and taking part in the resources we have. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, do reach out to Sport Wales directly or come along to one of our drop-ins. And we wish you all the best of luck with your potential crowdfunding campaigns. Take care. Bye.